This is the Police Training HQ podcast. We are your headquarters for all things training and resources for Texas law enforcement. And folks, it's finally happening. The Police Training HQ podcast is live. I'm Walt Bauer, and today we have an extremely important episode because it's our first episode. Finally.
There's always a first for everything.
Always a first. We're coming live from Houston, where Mike and I are teaching an advanced instructor class, and we went down to the store and said, screw it, we're going to get 2 microphones, and we're going to shoot a podcast finally, and it's happening tonight.
Shoot a podcast.
That's right, we're shooting
shoot
it.
a podcast?
I don't know, I'm not that
you're
professional.
Recording one, I guess, but
that's true.
You don't say shoot too loudly in Houston.
That's true.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah, you say duck loudly in Houston.
Yeah, you do.
It's an exciting time. Police Training HQ, we want to reach out to our viewers. We want to bring you content, and as mentioned before, we're finally getting there. This episode is really dedicated to the founder and the person that created this wonderful idea, and for you, our viewers, to kind of get an idea of what Police Training HQ is so you can help spread the good word and report to your headquarters when you need training. Mm-hmm. That's the goal.
It's also for me to harass you for saying viewers.
That's right, viewers and listeners.
Listeners.
Like I said, guys, I'm not professional. I'm just trying really hard. There's a middle-aged man trying really hard. If this is your jam,
that must make me an old man.
Then welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, that's right.
So as I said before, no interruptions, right to the point. We're going to try to make this 30, 45 minutes long because you don't want to hear the hotel noises, the AC, the refrigerator, people running up and down the hallway. And so, with me today, the founder of Police Training HQ, Mike Hughes, the infamous.
The infamous.
Mike, tell the people about yourself.
Oh, wow. About myself? You would throw me under the bus.
I would.
Right? Lifetime cop. Really don't know anything else. It's kind of been my life since 18 years of age, and I'm at 58 now, so I don't do public math, but that seems like a lot of years. So Walt and I both are, I would say, dedicated trainers and looking to not walk away from a profession that we love and not share back what we've learned over the years, which has a lot to do with why we even involve ourselves in the training world and trying to improve training. So I'm not going to bore you with a bio. Most of the people who are going to listen to us kind of have an idea who we are anyway. But kind of a lifetime pursuit of the profession that even to this day I still love.
Yeah, he's being humble. Mike is well known, I'm sure, for a lot of the listeners, viewers in the future.
Yes.
You'll know his work from his time at several police agencies and training academies in Texas. His classes are well known for its innovative ways to help students retain knowledge, and I'm happy to be along for the ride. As mentioned before, my name is Walt Bauer, and maybe I know some of you, maybe I don't. I, like Mike, have spent my entire adult life in some type of service, including police, before that firefighting, but I don't want to admit that. I just did, but, I guess...
You did, but that's okay.
I want to tell the truth to our listeners.
We'll forgive you, yes.
Yeah, I just want to be honest. I quickly got burned out and decided I'm a commodian. And decided that, police work was for me. And later on in life, after serving at a number of different roles, that training was what I wanted to do and do kind of want to spend the rest of my career doing. And that's how, for the listeners, that's how Mike and I found each other after I called him begging for a job. And I think after maybe some time, I'll let Mike speak to that, but after some time of maybe getting to know that I'm not full of it and I care, we just chatting one day in his office he has this idea, Police Training HQ, and that was 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And we want to be a comprehensive training environment. A training resource rather, for Texas police, and then later on perhaps other things, EMS, fire, and other states as well. In preparing for the podcast, Mike, I wanted to kind of dedicate this to you as the person that created it. And I know our listeners more than likely kind of want to know where this came from, because a lot of our users and consumers are kind of like, whoa, where are all these articles coming from, and books and practice exams and all these different products we're offering? And so however you want to do it in your own words, because I'm sort of curious, what was that inspiration behind Police Training HQ?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with improving retention, and we teach a lot, but often we walk out of the classroom after teaching a class, and we really don't focus toward helping students retain the information. I think there's a huge assumption that you go in and teach a class that what you've said is going to be remembered. And I mean, we both nerd out on the science behind some of this in training, but the reality is that unless you're repping the information, the retention's not going to be there. And we've both sort of had free resources that we've given away to recruits, from Quizlet to Kahoot, and but also know that somewhere out in the wild of the internet are some practice exams, and I would say they're probably hit or miss on the quality. So the big thing is we're looking to fill a sort of a void or improve on some of the offerings that are out there with our practice exams and some of our manuals or reference documents or articles. And obviously there's the monetary issues that go behind that. Is you can only do so much that you give away, and sometimes your time has to be accounted for, and that's kind of where the business model came from. But the overarching reason behind all of it is just simply to improve retention of the information that's important for recruits when they go to take the licensing exam or even internal tests. I mean, we've had feedback that a lot of our tests are helping recruits do well in their own academy environments. So, I mean, that's, I guess, the long and the short of it, as simple as I can kind of explain it out of my own sort of brain.
Well, and not to make this an interview, it wasn't intended to that. I don't want to because Mike would be uncomfortable if you don't know him, making this about him. But, I sort of noticed too, and maybe I'm just later to the game, but maybe a statement and a question is like, I noticed too, teaching some time ago, that I would put on these sort of dog and pony shows as an instructor. And then I never really considered why maybe testing doesn't reflect that, or, why students aren't retaining it months later. That for me wasn't that long ago, maybe 5 years. How long ago did you kind of see that as an observation? Because HQ is, while we're kind of launching it within the last 6 or 8 months, it seems like that you've had that idea for a while.
I'd say I'm probably similar to most every person that's taught. You go in and you try to do a really, really good job on the front end with your presentations. We go from the PowerPoint, making your PowerPoint more dynamic, to improving your presentation. And that's all about delivery, and that's fine. You have to deliver a quality product in the classroom. And and I think about T. Cole's standard about subject matter expertise, and I mean, I guess I'll be cocky enough to say that the topics I'm going to teach, I'm going to be a subject matter expert. And there's a lot of subject matter experts, but I think where we miss the boat is that not only do we need a subject matter expert, we need an expert presenter, but then beyond that, we need the expert who's going to help the student, prescribe to the student a way to lock that information in, whether it's lock it in to pass a test or lock it in for a career. Everything search and seizure, penal code, all those topics, that's career information. You need to know that from day one in field training to the day you wrap up your career and sign off the radio for the last time. So I don't know that I can pinpoint a specific time that I didn't have this magic realization that retention is where we need to focus more. But I think I can prove that just in what we see sometimes in testing results from students. Students who are simply force-fed information in a classroom versus students who are shown ways to hang on to the information, whether it's study habits or practice tests or whatever method that we can give them to help that stick to them. We sort of use this sticky analogy in a lot of the classes we teach, instructor and advanced instructor, is that the information is so stuck to them. It's like gum on the bottom of your shoe. It's sticky, it stretches, it just kind of hangs on, no way to get it off. And that should be our goal as instructors, is make the information as permanent as we can and not assuming that the students themselves know how to do that.
Yeah, and then implement it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're in Houston this week, and there's some predictions we're making that, perhaps it's really uncomfortable that if you've been teaching for a few years or have been training, that some of the things that we're talking about here requires an implementation of change and being multimodal in a way, which perhaps is for other, podcasts down the road. We're going to talk a lot about, the world of training and teaching and all of those things, but for the listeners too, I mean, that is the foundation. That's what Mike and I talk about a lot, just about every day.
Yeah.
Nerd being the operative word for sure. And I think
I'm okay with being a nerd.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot.
I don't know about that.
It is. And I think that that's what separates us because, Mike's the boss in a way, and we can implement just about anything as long as it fits your standard and it doesn't crash course. And as I mentioned before, advanced instructor this week, and to see at the end of the week, are they actually going to change? And it's so clear that the students that we go to teach at these various agencies and training academies, they want us back.
Absolutely.
They learn, and it's not just because we're both devilishly handsome or that I'm one of the funniest. I mean, science says I'm one of the funniest guys in Texas. That's the truth. I think.
Just keep thinking that. It's okay.
That's fair. They want us back. They do well on their exams. They learn, and then maybe the best compliment, I don't know, maybe you, but getting these calls back later, and they're working through police problems, and they're using the training that we gave them. That shows that, kind of wrapping back around, I wonder this week, are we going to see these core principles that we're trying to bring people from Police Training HQ on how easy it can be to implement it, but there's a likelihood that we're going to struggle with that. And that sort of leads me to my kind of next part, which is all of the techniques that we sort of see as core values of Police Training HQ. Bringing autonomy to the adult, learning environment, which is really what we do in a way. And for the listeners, we're spread this out over time. We're not just trying to give you little nuggets and then leave you. But that's really how we leverage the adult learning environment to the nth degree. I would say, and it's all very relevant. We're huge. We're big on practical application. Those three core principles. And for you, given that you have to oversee a lot of training and have to kind of set a standard, like I mentioned before, and you have, I don't know how many hours of advanced instructor, kind of instruction and basic instructor. Why do you think it's so hard that as a state, as a training world, I guess, if you will, why is it so hard to change that model, that Aristotle model, as we call it?
I think that's what people are comfortable with, or at least what they've been on the receiving end of. And maybe there's some trepidation about stepping in and using a new approach to things. It's not new. I say new, that's the wrong choice of words. But something that's far more effective. It's easy to show that it's more effective. Adults want to be treated like adults. Adults can learn in varying ways, but probably the most effective is hands-on, scenario-based, not beat over the head with a PowerPoint of 2,000 slides. And I think we're a profession that sometimes gets stuck in our ways, and change is uncomfortable. But here with this group, we have 14 students from Harris County Sheriff's Office in this class with varying levels of experience, but all of which are good presenters. And it's not that they can't present, but we're trying to maybe open up some ideas that they can take into their own training and improve retention, increase the use of hands-on scenarios, all the things that we've found to be effective. And that's the big thing I like about taking this course, especially on the road, is like we're not trying to keep this close to the vest. It's like we want to share it. We want to see success in enforcement and an increase in the quality of training. I think probably everyone who's in this profession has been to the in-service class that was, let's knock on the podium and give you all the answers to the test, and at the end you knew you were going to pass. You probably played on your phone or napped, I don't know, and still ultimately passed the test. And do we want that watered down level of training in this profession? Yeah. I don't, but it's almost like that's the norm in a lot of places. So there's so many ways to do training a lot better, and that's what I think would be sort of the foundation of our mission, if that's a way to say it. I don't know. I think it's probably a mission.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a mission. It's my mission. It wasn't easy to step away from full-time police work and make the decision that I'm going to effectively retire from full-time policing and, for what it's worth, go into training where may or may not be as lucrative as we want it to be. And that's what PoliceTrainingHQ does. It's a science-backed, practical resource for law enforcement professionals. And we want to bring these techniques to you. We will travel. I don't know if we're allowed to swear on the podcast or not, or be ugly, but we'll take your money. How about I'll say it like that? We'll take your money. But also, we want to engage with you. More importantly, and very genuinely, we want to engage with you. We want to share. And for the listeners, if you want, go to our website right now. we can see you. Do it now. PoliceTrainingHQ.com, and check out our stuff. We have articles, we have books, we have practice exams. If you're in the academy and need a helping hand with your tests, whether it be in class or with the state examination, we're going to have a lot more going on.
Tell them the titles of the books.
Oh yeah, we have a brand new one that we're super excited about. You don't have to be right, you have to be reasonable. Sort of our look at probable cause and a bunch of other reasonable suspicions, and just the idea of reasonableness in the Fourth Amendment, which, other than teaching, that's Mike and I's love and passion, is the Fourth Amendment. Police Trainer Playbook.
Right.
We have it's a case law precedent book that we've put together for essentially law enforcement resource guide more than anything. And then particularly for me, I planned on years ago to write an FTO survival guide, and with Mike's help and guidance, we put one out. So we've got 4 out now, and I'm sure there'll be others. They're up for sale, and you can't beat our prices because we don't want to rob you. We want to give you stuff. We also have, I think our articles being up right now is going to be a great look, and those are free for those cheapskates out there. They're police. So, but if you're not, I apologize. The whole website will come together. I think once you explore it, you'll see that what we're talking about here on the pod is true. We're just trying to give out as much as we can. And if you're in the academy, use us. Use it as a resource. Share it. We're going to post this podcast on several different platforms. If it's on YouTube, give us some comments, share it. We have a Police Training HQ YouTube channel that Mike's put up a ton of great resources, copcraft videos being kind of on the out. What am I trying to say? Unprofessionally. Be on the lookout. That's the words.
On the lookout.
Words. Words are fun.
Cop terms. Be on
Cop
the
terms.
lookout.
That's right. Be on the lookout. BOLO.
Yeah.
For our training videos. And then, on the other social media platforms, we'd love you to take a listen. Mike, do you have any parting words?
Just excited to start putting out some of these podcasts. There's so much we want to talk about and share. And I say share, I sometimes think about when we start totaling the number of years of experience. We've got a lot to share. It's just has to come out in chunks, because otherwise we would have some 4 or 5 hour podcast. You would think you were listening to some long form interview by Rogan or one of those guys. So yeah, we're not to that level. Probably never will be, but certainly want to try to give you some useful information along the way. Other than that, like I said, just happy to kind of get this up and going and share what we know.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to give off the first episode, one, to let the listeners in kind of a bird's eye view of what we do and how we operate, and to meet the founder, Mike Hughes, and myself, Walt Bauer. We want to help you. We want to come to a law enforcement agency or training academy near you, and we also want you to be aware that this podcast won't be all about science and all that. We're going to have different guests. I've wrote maybe 5 or 6 episodes already in scripts, and it'll be a varying degree, I can assure you. And if you want to be a guest, let us know. info@policetraininghq.com.
Yep.
We thank you for tuning in.
Right. I thought you were going to go all Forrest Gump. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, and that's all I got to say about that.
Right.
We thank y'all for tuning in to the Police Training HQ podcast. Until next time.
Y'all take care. Be safe out there.
Thanks for tuning in to Police Training HQ, where training meets the mission. Stay sharp, stay prepared, and join us next time as we continue to bring the best in law enforcement education straight to you. Remember, every shift starts with the right training. Until then, train smart, serve strong.